Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we are diving into 5 quarters that might look like regular pocket change, but could actually be worth a fortune. We're talking about the 1995 D quarter, the 1980 P quarter, the 1983 D quarter, the 1994 P quarter, and the 1968 quarter. Each of these coins hides a story of history, rarity, and collector demand, and some of them in the right condition have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So before you spend your change, make sure you watch closely, because one of these coins could change your life. The 1995 D quarter may look like any other Washington quarter in your pocket, but certain examples can be worth far more than 25 cents in high mint state grades, especially MS67 or better. These coins can bring in values from $50 up to over $1,000. And if the coin has unique errors like double die obverse off center strikes or clipped planchets, the price can climb even higher. These rare varieties are prized by collectors because they combine scarcity with the charm of modern coinage. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint and carries the small letter D mint mark to the right of George Washington's ponytail. The design on the obverse is the classic portrait of Washington, first introduced in 1932 by John Flanagan, while the reverse still features the heraldic eagle, which had been used on quarters since 1932 before the state quarters program began in 1999. The 1995 D quarter was made from a copper nickel-clad composition over a pure copper core, giving it a silvery appearance and a weight of 5.67 grams with a mintage of over 1.1 billion pieces. This quarter is extremely common in circulated grades, but finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is a true challenge. Most coins have small nicks, scratches, or dull luster from years of handling. Collectors especially value quarters with strong strikes, full detail in Washington's hair, and sharp eagle feathers on the reverse, because these features are often weakly struck in mass production. Mint state coins graded MS67 with booming luster and no visible marks are the real gems and can fetch big premiums in auctions. There are also known errors from the Denver Mint in 1995, such as broad strikes, die cracks, and repunched mint marks, all of which are sought after by error coin collectors in everyday change. The 1995 D quarter might be just another coin, but in the right condition or with the right error, it transforms into a collectible worth far more than its face value, reminding us once again that modern coins can hide valuable surprises in plain sight. The 1980p quarter might seem like just another modern clad coin, but when you dig deeper, you find that certain examples can carry remarkable value in today's coin market. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, this quarter was part of a huge mintage, yet despite the massive numbers produced, collectors often struggle to find high-grade examples that have survived the decades without wear or damage. This scarcity of pristine pieces is what gives the 1980p quarter its hidden worth in circulated condition. Most 1980p quarters are still worth only face value, but when you come across one in mint state, especially those graded MS65 and higher, the value can climb into the hundreds and sometimes higher, depending on demand. Errors are another factor that makes the 1980p quarter valuable. Some have been found with off-center strikes, misaligned dies, or double dies, which transform an ordinary coin into a highly collectible piece of U.S. mint history. When these error coins appear in auctions or coin shows, they spark fierce competition because collectors know how rare they are and how much they add to a collection. The historical importance of the 1980p quarter comes from the era it was struck in. The United States had already transitioned away from silver coinage and was producing billions of clad quarters for everyday use. These coins were not saved in large numbers, which means that very few high-quality examples survive the roughness of circulation. In fact, many experts note that 1980s quarters are some of the most challenging to locate in gem condition, which explains the high demand and rising market value today. If you take the time to look closely at your change or coin jars, a 1980p quarter in exceptional condition could surprise you. The sharpness of the strike, the luster on the surface, and the absence of scratches are what truly set it apart. Collectors are willing to pay a premium for coins that show off these qualities because they represent the very best survivors of their time. So while millions of 1980p quarters still exist, only a small fraction are valuable. And that small fraction can make all the difference between spending 25 cents and discovering a hidden treasure that tells a story of history, rarity, and collector passion. The 1983 quarter is one of those coins that often slips through people's hands without notice, but for collectors, it carries a special kind of importance. This coin was minted at the Denver facility during a time when the United States was not producing special mint sets, which means that very few high-quality examples were saved from circulation. Most of the 1983 quarters were used heavily in everyday commerce, and as a result, finding them in pristine mint state condition today is extremely difficult. This scarcity is exactly what makes them valuable. While a worn 1983 quarter is still worth just face value, a gem example graded MS65 or higher can easily bring in hundreds of dollars, and in some cases even more, depending on its quality. Errors and varieties also play a major role in the 1983 quarter's desirability. Collectors are always on the lookout for doubled dies, off-center strikes, or coins struck with misaligned dies, which add to the rarity and uniqueness of each piece. When these kinds of errors appear at auction, they attract heavy bidding because they stand out as unusual survivors from a massive mintage. This makes error varieties of the 1983 quarter far more valuable than their standard counterparts. Historically, the 1983 quarters are part of a fascinating era in coinage production. The lack of government-issued mint sets for that year meant collectors had fewer ways to obtain high-grade examples directly from the mint. Instead, almost all of these coins went into circulation, where they quickly wore down. This history explains why the surviving mint state examples are considered scarce today, even though the overall mintage numbers were in the hundreds of millions. For anyone checking their change, the 1983 quarter is a sleeper coin because it is so easily overlooked, yet it has such strong collector demand. A coin with sharp details, glowing mint luster, and no circulation marks can command a serious premium in the market, so while most people would spend it without thinking, those who recognize the rarity of a high-grade 1983 quarter know that they are holding a true treasure from a period in American coinage when quality survivors became harder to find than ever before. The 1994 quarter is one of those coins that at first glance appears to be just another modern piece of change, but when you look deeper, it carries hidden value that many collectors are eager to uncover. This coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, and while millions were produced, only a very small number have survived in high-grade condition. Coins from the 1990s were often overlooked by collectors at the time, which means most examples went straight into circulation and were heavily used today. That history makes finding a mint state 1994 quarter with sharp detail and full luster a real challenge, and collectors are willing to pay strong premiums for those gems. In terms of market value, a worn 1994 quarter still only spends for 25 cents. But if you find one graded MS65 or higher, you could be looking at a coin worth far more at auctions, and Coin shows the finest known examples have drawn strong bidding, especially because registry set collectors chase the very best specimens. Condition is everything when it comes to modern clad quarters, and the 1994 is no exception. Errors also make this coin exciting to look for. Double die, obverse varieties, and off-center strikes have been reported, and when these unusual pieces hit the market, their prices rise sharply. An error coin is always a unique survivor of the minting process, and for modern issues like the 1994 these errors stand out as particularly desirable. Not only do they make the coin more valuable, but they also tell an interesting story about how mistakes slipped through in such a massive production year. Historically, the 1994 quarter represents the era just before the launch of the state quarters program in 1999. At that time, coinage was still relatively overlooked by the general public, which explains why few people bothered to save these coins in pristine form. That decision years ago is exactly why collectors today are struggling to find high-quality survivors and why prices have continued to rise. So while the 1994 quarter may seem ordinary, the truth is that in the right condition or with a dramatic mint error, it can transform into a coin worth far more than its face value. It serves as a reminder that even in modern coinage, there are hidden treasures waiting to be discovered by those who know what to look for. The 1968 quarter is one of the most fascinating coins from the modern era of United States coinage because it sits right in the middle of a major transition in American history. When silver was removed from quarters starting in 1965, the United States Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition, which is what the 1968 quarter is made of. At first, many people ignored these coins, thinking they would never have the same appeal as silver coins, but over the decades, the 1968 quarter has gained respect in the collector market, and certain examples today can be worth a surprising amount of money. This coin was struck at three different facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Philadelphia and Denver coins were intended for circulation, and millions of them were produced, which means most circulated 1968 quarters are still only worth their face value. However, condition plays the biggest role in determining value. If you find a 1968 quarter in gem mint state with sharp details and full original luster, collectors will pay strong premiums because so few examples survived circulation untouched. The real treasure, though, comes from the San Francisco Mint, because in 1968 proof sets were issued again after a short break, and the San Francisco Mint struck beautiful proof quarters. These proof coins can be worth much more than face value, especially if they feature deep cameo contrast with frosted designs and mirror-like backgrounds. Such coins are highly sought after and can sell for significant prices at auction. Another reason the 1968 quarter is important is because it marks the early years of the clad coinage era. Many collectors today want high-grade examples of these transitional coins because they represent a turning point in the history of U.S. money. Although not made of silver, the 1968 quarter is still considered collectible and valuable when in pristine condition or when struck with unusual errors. Some known errors include double dies and off center strikes, and those are especially desirable because they transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a rare and unique piece of minting history. The historical context of 1968 also plays a role in the coin's significance. This was a turbulent year in America, with social and political changes happening across the country, and while quarters were being minted in the millions, the average person never considered saving them in special condition. This is why today it is so difficult to find high grade 1968 quarters. They were used in vending machines, toll booths, and everyday commerce, meaning the majority of them were worn down quickly. The ones that somehow survived in brilliant, uncirculated state are the true treasures in terms of value. A well-circulated 1968 quarter is still just worth a quarter, but gem mint state examples can bring in strong premiums, often ranging from tens to hundreds of dollars, depending on the grade and proof. Coins from San Francisco, especially those with deep cameo qualities, can sell for even more. Some rare errors have reached into the hundreds or even thousands when offered in auctions because collectors are always willing to pay extra for rarity, uniqueness, and historicity. Before you spend a 1968 quarter, make sure to look closely at the mint mark, the condition, and whether it could be a proof or an error coin. What might look like ordinary pocket change could actually be something much more valuable. In the world of coin collecting, the 1968 quarter is proof that even modern clad coins can achieve high respect and surprising value, and it stands as a reminder that history and rarity can hide in the most unexpected places, right in your everyday change. So as we've seen today, coins that most people overlook can sometimes hold incredible value. The 1995D quarter, the 1980p quarter, the 1983D quarter, the 1994p quarter, and the 1968 quarter may seem ordinary in your pocket, but each of them has the potential to be worth far more, depending on condition, rarity, and mint errors. Collectors pay big money for the best examples, which means you should always check your change carefully, because what looks like 25 cents might actually be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. Keep hunting, keep learning, and you never know, the next valuable coin could be right in your hands.